Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. The Lord is going to put us back in our land, man, through Yahweh Shai. We're going to be sovereign, we're going to rule, we're going to win, we're going to have everything in abundance, man.
Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
The wisdom is going to lead to the kingdom, which ultimately the kingdom is the government of Israel, the tabernacle of David. When you look up this word, keys, I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom. When you go to that word keys, that keys to the kingdom is the key of David, the tabernacle of David, the government, authority. But when you go to the word for keys, it says what? Kleis. It says, since the keeper of the keys has the power to open and shut, meaning the Lord is going to give us dominion, like he's going to give us judgment. And it says metaphorically in the New Testament to denote power and authority of various kinds. This wisdom is going to lead to us receiving the kingdom, which is authority above, the authority that the Most High Yahweh gave Yahweh Shai. We're going to have that authority, the 144, Lord willing, that number. But it's authority of various kinds, authority over the resources, authority over the heathen, authority over, you can implement judgment. You're going to be able to create and manipulate the elements to create things. You're going to be a God on earth. Basically, that's the power that 144 is going to have. Not even all Israel are going to be on the level of the 144. But yeah, that key, that was given to Peter, was the head of the church. We fall under that order. That's David. The tabernacle of David will receive all various kinds of power, and the gates of hell will not prevail, against us. But yeah, the key of David, see Revelation 1:18, I am him that liveth and was dead. He conquered death. He's the firstborn of the dead, first one of the sons of God. He is the Son of God. He conquered death and went back to the right-hand side. Now we're seeking to conquer death and get our glory back. It says, I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive evermore. Amen. I have the keys of hell and death, meaning judgment. Judgment is given into the hands of Yahweh Shai. And we're going to have that power. And say we're going to be able to create plagues on the earth. Like we're going to be a government. Like the government is the government of the whole earth. So the keys that were given unto Peter, which is the key of David, is authority. Power over the nations, everything, bro. So, the scriptures say here, Zechariah 12, it says, in that day the Yahweh shall defend the evidence of Jerusalem. We're going to be New Jerusalem. And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. So we're going to take the same form as Yahweh Shai. We're going to be joint heirs with him in rulership. That's why he told, the disciples, you're going to sit at my table, So all Israel is going to be on point. All men will be priests, all our women, but the house of David is going to be as God. Meaning they're going to have a certain authority on a whole nother level under Yahweh Shai, who is the angel of the Lord that's going to be before us. So, yeah, bro. We got a lot coming. The tabernacle of God is with men. When you read that in Revelation 21:3, and I heard the voice out of heaven saying, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. I mean, the laws is going to be in us. And also, 1 John 3 says what? First John 3 and 2, beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it does not appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And every man that hath this hope in himself purifies himself even as he is pure. So we got a lot coming, bro. We gonna be, like next level, this government that's coming, kingdom of heaven, boy. Woo! So, I don't mind being a part of the large multitude because you make it, but man, to be a part of that governing body, bro, that 144, you got something special coming, bro. Judgment, like you're gonna literally, the authority Yahweh Shai has, you're gonna have that. He's gonna share that authority with you.
Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem Rakapadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers who rule well, teach well, and being great examples, to the flock, and Lord will, this lesson is edifying, Shalom to you brothers and sisters whom have, all right, came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Shai, all right, and the hearty shalom, to you beloved brothers pushing his word and truth, and then sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back, to the obedience, man, in these last days, okay, because we're coming down the stretch now. The Lord is moving major pieces, okay, for prophecy, all right, to be fulfilled in the earth, okay. And with this latest, thing dealing with what's going on in Venezuela, well, they're just, a piece, okay. They're just an event, all right, that's going to lead to major prophecy being fulfilled, okay, because they're just a small thing to what's going on, all right, in the overall agenda of Yahweh Bashem Shai. Okay, and what we have to understand, is we keep our eye, on prophecy, dealing with what the Lord intends to do in the earth, all right, in the near future. Okay, well, we have to understand, dealing with what we seeing with Venezuela, this is showing the posture, okay, that America, is taking in the earth. Okay, America is a empire in decline. All right, and a lot of times when empires in decline, they lash out, to show power. Okay, so what we're seeing with Esau, Edom over here in the West is they're beginning to lash out in the earth. Okay, and they're just going to war with everything and everybody. Okay, they want to go to war, with information. They want to bring censorship. Okay, they want to go to war with the tribes, that's in the states, dealing with the whole ICE thing. All right, and they want to go to war with these nations abroad. Okay, so what we're seeing is a very aggressive military posture, okay, by the West, okay, which is going to lead to the downfall. Okay, so the Lord has these devils walking right into this trap, man. All right, because American military aggression is going to lead to prophecy being fulfilled of America being turned into a desert. Okay, and Venezuela, just shows, all right, the posture, okay, of the West. And then it also, is going to be used to make these devils more proud than ever, to go on with the rest of their moves. Okay. So what I got today, I got two videos, all right, and I call it Boots on the Ground Report because I got a video of a guy being interviewed that's in, all right, Venezuela, and then I have an interview with ex-CIA, all right, Larry Johnson, okay, his take on it, which he was CIA, he dealt with certain operations in South America, so he's familiar, with what's going on, So I always like to get sources, with boots on the ground, and people that have, expertise, okay, in the things that's happening, so you get a thorough understanding, because right now, it's a lot, every video is about, Venezuela, and, so you filter through things and you're going to have conflicting, all right, stories and, narratives, all right, which is still unfolding, you know. But we're going to get, a more boots on the ground perspective, a more expertise, perspective. And Lord will, this is edifying. All right. And like I say, if anything doesn't make sense, you brothers, all right, even you few sisters, feel free to ask questions, about things that's going on, or you see something that you don't fully understand. Ask a question about it, That's what I ask, But so yeah, let's get into it. First, let's start off here. What we usually do, set a foundation. All right, with precepts, man, because you go into the book of Psalms, chapter 10, all right, verse 3. This is the NLT. Now, one thing, the beautiful thing about the Bible, it exposes the mind of Esau, Edom, how this nigga thinks. Okay, his outlook, his perspective. Okay, it goes into the viewpoint of the wicked in their pride. Okay, so when you read Psalms 10 and 3 in the NLT, it says, "For they brag about their evil desires." Are we not seeing that? Okay, what do you say? We're gonna go and take, Venezuela or America's oil companies are gonna take over the oil production. Okay, they're saying, look, we're gonna do this. All right, and now they're telling, the vice president, which I think she's in on a co-op. I think she sold Maduro out. All right, but we'll see. It's interesting. It's interesting to see these things unfold. It's like watching the live, real time Game of Thrones. Seeing these things unfold. Okay, but they're telling her that, look, if she don't get with the program, it's gonna be a second strike. So he's just bragging about his desires. And then I got, he's talking about, if Iran don't get right, they gonna be next, and Greenland could be next. So they're just on, this rampage, on this rant, just bragging about their evil desires. Okay, it says they praise the greedy, which are what? These elite families, man. Okay, this 1%, okay, of these particular families, beginning with the banking families, that all the wealth trickles to. Okay, so they praise the greedy. This system is set up, okay, for this one small percent of people, okay, to become, wealthy beyond comprehension, and the rest of the earth, okay, to be in survival mode. You see, this is the system that they're trying to, all right, establish permanently. You see, with this digital system, he wants to establish this system permanently in the earth, man. Okay, so he's bragging about what he wants to do with the AI, what he wants to do with the resources he's going to take, the countries he's going to conquer, so he's just bragging about evil desires. And they praise the greedy because only the small percentage is going to are going to benefit off the moves we see in, all right, being made. Okay, it says, and they curse the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. The wicked are too proud to seek the Most High. They seem to think that the Most High is dead, man. Okay, so this devil in his mind, he's going to replace the Most High with technology. All right. In his mind, the Most High is not effective anymore. You know, they don't need the Most High. They can create everything now. They can create from scratch. They can run existence now. They have enough technology. They have enough knowledge. They have enough science so they can run, all right, existence now. You know? So now we're seeing them aggressively just take what they want in the earth. Okay? You see, just openly, blatantly, just stealing, robbing, looting, causing chaos. Okay? Because in their mind, all right, they're gonna have all the resources. Okay, and they're gonna set up this technocracy to govern the earth forever. You know, and they do these things if the Most High doesn't exist. Like they're gonna go unchecked for this, man. Okay, because America, especially, is used to operating with no accountability. As you can see, there were so many, you know, international laws broken by what they did in Venezuela. But who's going to hold them accountable? Okay, that's why it's going to take Yahweh Shah to come and hold this devil accountable, man. You see? And that's going to be also to show that the Most High is alive and well when he sends his son with all their power, all right, to conquer these devils, man. Okay, that's going to show that the Most High is alive and well, man. All right, he's going to send his son, his top representative, Yahweh Shah, to deal with these devils, man. It says, yet they succeed in everything they do. It says they do not see your punishment awaiting them. They sneer or they mock at all their enemies, man. So these devils have just been able to do what they want, throw their weight around the earth. You know, it's like they make all these wicked plans and then they just able to go do it. Okay, they break their own laws, man. You see, and they're just able to take, you know, destroy. You see, cause confusion, chaos. Is like, damn. You know, they're constantly able to pull these things off. You see, but they don't understand the punishment that's awaiting them. They don't know that they're running to their own end. You know, but in the midst of this, they sneer at all their enemies, man. And this is what these devils doing. You know, they're making mockery of everyone that's against them. Okay, whether it's, you know, people on the internet that's speaking against them, or whether it's whole countries that's against them, hey, and everything that's in between, they're mocking them, man. Okay, and in their mind, when you read verse 6, it says they think nothing bad will ever happen to us. We will be free of trouble forever. Okay, and this is how these devils moving. And see, with this last thing that they was able to pull off, man. Hey, the Lord, because see, Esau thinks he's the master of psyops, which is psychological operations. No, the Most High is the master of psyops. All right, because he wants you devils prouder than ever, man. He wants you to have, you know, the faith to carry out the rest of your plans. He wants to motivate you to carry out the rest of your plans, which is going to be your own destruction, man. Okay, so he needs these devils pumped up and hyped up. And you know they riding the wave of all this cheering of the American people. You know, people in Europe cheering this on. Okay, different governments of the West cheering, you know, America on. Okay, so the Most High wants America to be hyped up. Okay, he wants these devils to be tapped in to their agenda, because their agenda, all right, is going to lead them to their own destruction. It's going to lead to these devils going into captivity, man. Okay, but in their mind, they're unstoppable, man. You know, this one interview, Trump said he not worried about nothing. He said nothing bothers him. You know, I gotta try to find it, man. I might do a quick screen record, man. You know, but Trump said nothing bother him. You know, and he said it with so much conviction. It's like, God damn. You see, but that's the mindset of these devils, man. So we're finna see a lot of aggression, man, on every level, man. Okay, it says their mouths, okay, said their mouths are full of cursing, lies, and threats. Trouble and evil are on the tips of their tongues, man. And this is all you hearing from these devils, especially after, a couple of days ago, man, after they pulled this latest, okay, military operation off, the special military operation. Okay, after they pulled that off, they're definitely, all right, making these threats. Okay, they definitely full of threats now, man. You see, it said trouble and evil are on the tips of their tongues, man. Okay, so these devils now, all right, in their mind, all you're gonna hear, well, in their mind, all they see is a finish line. Okay, which is take the rest of the resources, set up this digital system, mandate the CHIP, all right, and lock this thing down forever, man. Okay, so in their mind, all they see is the finish line now. Okay, verse 8, it says they lurk in ambush in the villages, waiting to murder innocent people. They are always searching for helpless victims, man. Okay, and that's what these devils do. Like, and that's the thing people boast about the American military, which, on paper, and they've had a run to where they've been the most high performing military, and basically due to their ability to project power throughout the earth. The American military is able to showcase power throughout the earth. It's able to spread itself like no other military in history has been able to do. They've been able to mobilize their forces like no other military has been able to do. Okay, because even with Russia and China, and that's why like Russia and China, they're not able to come to the aid of Venezuela because they can't project power. They don't have, all right, the military system to project power that far out. Okay, now in their region where they at, all right, they can project a lot of power. Okay, but they don't have, all right, the infrastructure. See, America has all this infrastructure set up through the earth. They got airstrips and military bases and weapon depots all throughout the earth. Okay, Russia don't have that. China don't have that. Only America was able to go and build what they want to build and set up infrastructure here, and they got alliances with this country and that country. Okay, and that's why it's gonna hurt so much the American military when all these their allies flip on them because they're not gonna have access to that military infrastructure in all these regions of the earth. Okay, so these devils, they've been able to project themselves throughout the earth. But one thing that they do as of late, they prey on the helpless, man. You see, Venezuela is helpless against American military, man. Okay, Syria and all these places are helpless. Iraq, okay, these places are helpless against American military, man. Okay, so they search out helpless victims, man. These African nations, man, they're helpless against, okay, NATO. And also America has NATO, okay, to where they can dispatch NATO to different parts to fight, man. So this just has been, a war machine like the earth has never seen. Okay, but what we're getting ready to see now is when that war machine, okay, makes its way to the east, okay, there's going to be a great resistance from these eastern, okay, nations that's waiting on them, man. Okay, so it says they lurk and ambush in the villages, waiting to murder innocent people. They are always searching for helpless victims. Like a lion crouched and hiding, they wait to pounce on the helpless. Like hunters, they capture the helpless and drag them into their nets. Their helpless victims are crushed. They fall beneath the strength of the wicked, man. And they're used to just doing this nation after nation after nation. They've done this to every Central and South American nation, in the every Central and South, all right, American nation, they've done this. Every country, they've done this. Okay, which goes back into the curses about us being under our enemies. Okay, so there's nothing that no and you see going back, no one shall save thee. Okay, so when you see them operating in these Central and South American nations, nobody is going to be able to save them except the Lord, man. That's why, hey, because you got the elect in Central and South America. Okay, it's going to be delivered. Okay, but until then, Esau has his way. Okay, but we're seeing the Lord pumping this devil up, to go full along with his plan, man. Okay, so let's go. Let's go here. I want to get this video here. This is from a guy that's down there in Venezuela. That's where he's from. Yeah, he mentioned something else too. We're gonna touch on, but let's play this. A few minutes of this, and he's gonna kind of give a report of what's going on.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the show. It's your host, Danny Haifong. As you can see, I am joined by Venezuelan journalist Diego Sequeira. First time on the program. I want to welcome you. Thank you so much for joining me. I wish it were under better circumstances. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. And circumstances are just circumstances, man. Anyway.
Yeah, well, this is certainly a struggle. This is certainly a topic that we have to cover because it is a really earth-shaking and important. So let's get to it, Diego. So I wanted to ask you, because there's a lot of contradictions right now swirling around at following the kidnapping of Nicolas Maduro by the United States, by the Trump administration, the Army Delta Force. He's now in the MDC in Brooklyn being held. And in the aftermath of this, it appears that there are various narratives about the United States running the country, but it seems that the vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, who has been appointed now as the president of Venezuela, has a different idea and has hit back at this notion that Donald Trump is the ruler now of Venezuela. Here's what she had to say. I'll just read it because it is in Spanish. Here we go. She said, governments around the world, this is her reaction, are simply shocked that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is the victim and target of an attack of this nature, which undoubtedly has a Zionist tinge, which I found very interesting that she said. She said it's truly shameful. She continues, our father liberator said it in the Jamaica letter, the veil has been torn. We have already seen the light and they want to drag us back into darkness. The chains have been broken. We have already been free and our enemies intend to enslave us again.
So yeah, this is supposed to be the vice president. So she's the acting, president now in Venezuela. And just me speculating, I think she's in on the co-op. All right, because if she was actual opposition, they would have took her ass Tuesday night. Okay. But we'll see. This is just my speculation, but I believe she's in on the co-op. All right. And these next few weeks will tell the story. Okay. How they play it with her. Okay. Because you have Mark Rubio, he's been tasked, to head on, all right, to be the head of, the fallout, dealing with Venezuela. Okay, and how the government goes and how it's going to function. So she's supposedly already been in talks with Mark Rubio, which I believe that devil, he's a goddamn Spaniard. Okay, he might be one of them conquistadors coming back, man. Cortez, Rosario, he might be one of them niggas coming back, you know, because he has a deep hatred for all, you know, tribes, but especially the northern tribes, because now, you know, this devil, Mark Rubio, he's pushing, you know, to go out to Cuba next, you know. So ain't no telling, the devil might be one of them conquistadors coming back, man. Okay, but we're gonna see what this little chick here, man. You know, little Venezuelan. The coming weeks gonna tell it all. Okay, what these oil companies are able to do in Venezuela, these American oil companies, especially Exxon. You know, but then the Exxon goes back to those small heads. I had to look into it some more. Okay, but what these American oil companies are allowed to do in Venezuela, that's gonna tell it all. You know, dealing with her. You know, and I think she's just putting up a front. You know, like she's against, you know, what Trump and them is doing, and she's requesting Maduro to come back. You know that nigga ain't coming back. Okay? You know that nigga ain't coming back. Okay? We know that from over here. Okay? So let's play this some more.
If there's one thing that the Venezuelan people in this country are absolutely clear about, is that we will never again be slaves. And the decree has already been signed by President Maduro, the only president of Venezuela. There's only one president in this country, and his name is Nicolas Maduro Moros. Well,
nigga, mobilized for what? Them niggas done came and gone. Okay? They done came and what the hell you mobilized? Okay, and then they said there was one president. Well, if there was one president, y'all damn sure didn't protect him. Okay, all this pro Maduro, you know, that's coming from these head officials, these head government officials in Venezuela. Well, goddamn, and y'all didn't throw a stick at the goddamn U.S. military, man. But now y'all, we got one president. We'll see, man. You know,
contradicts, Diego, what Donald Trump had to say in his press conference following the kidnapping of Nicolas Maduro. This is what he told the press.
To come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship
going?
going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. Just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
So, Diego, you're on the ground in Venezuela right now. You are very intimately connected to the country. Please help our viewers understand what is going on here with what I just showed, and anything else you want to talk about in terms of the reality on the ground.
You know, well, first of all, it was an insane pressure, that one yesterday from Trump, and especially what he was addressing and the way he was saying a lot of things that are just not true, as usual is the case now with Trump. And also, I would like to add, I've been giving some interviews to more mainstreamish media. They talk about a political vacuum also, which is also just quite ignorant, if you ask me. I mean, this is a state and a government, and we have laws, and there's a constitution. And by the constitution, it was just interpreted by the Supreme Court, which basically says that now, under this current circumstances and based on 2 articles from our constitution, that for the time being, Delcy Rodriguez will be the interim president until Nicolas Maduro is back in Venezuela. So that's basically the legal aspect of this. It's legal.
That nigga ain't coming back, man. You know, ain't no way. You know, I don't see it. Okay, that's Trump's, personal little trophy. You know, so I don't expect that nigga to come back. Okay, so let's go here. All right, so this is official that you have this little chick, the vice president. She's the acting president now. Okay, down there in Venezuela.
It has nothing to do with any U.S. picking, any transition or whatever it is. I mean, he's just trying to. I guess it's trying to like ride the wave, the tide, in order to make that make sense in that order. But it's clear now that it has nothing to do with it. Just now, I think it was. I think like half an hour ago, he already threatened by our current president, Delcy Rodriguez, saying that if she doesn't comply, she's gonna get even worse than Nicolas Maduro had. So that clearly showed that yesterday presser was a BS. Now, talking about the mood in the country, the vibes in the country, and what's going on. I mean, I've been traveling quite extensively, especially yesterday. I had a long road ahead of me, which included small towns, by the way, rural small towns. And you can see the mood is the same anywhere, as in everything is calm. That's for one. There's no unrest. There's no upheaval. There's no gathering of opposition pro-Maria Corina Machado forces or something that are looking for to take over or anything. Nothing of that sort is happening. Actually, you're going to see the opposite. You're going to see people actually, currently right now, there are demonstrations throughout the country in support and asking for the return of Nicolás Maduro. Beyond the Chavista fray, if you will, people are, and this has been the case throughout all these months. I mean, we've been here like 5 months already. They basically don't support this kind of quote unquote resolutions, regardless if they support or not the government. Actually, in many cases, they just don't support. They don't like Nicolás Maduro, but they like far less for the U.S. to be taking over, especially after they bombed and we had this nasty operation yesterday that according to some, it took a total of 40 dead people, civilians and military. So thinking that people feel liberated or enthusiastic about what's going on, it's just a misrepresentation and it's just spin. That's not the case right now.
Yeah, man. So you have, all this footage, going out, and we have to be mindful too that the devil utilizing AI, and it might be some authentic people, celebrating, Maduro being captured, but Esau spins it as if, this is just a whole South America, celebrating, the capture of Maduro, which farther plays into the narrative of him being the hero. Okay, as he not being a robber, okay, not being a jackboy, okay, but being a hero and a liberator, okay, of the Venezuelan people, man. All right, which we did the lesson last night, man. Those people are only thing, if those American oil companies, and Lord will, we won't even be here long enough, for they to get that up and running, But if this place was to continue on, Venezuela would just be an oil plantation. All right, the people who work for pennies, farmlands will be taken. Okay, the environment will be polluted so bad. All right, that you couldn't even farm on it. Okay, and it'll just be a big oil rig. Okay, and then these elites will get super rich. You see, Venezuela people won't benefit. The American people not gonna benefit. It's gonna be the one, all right, the 1% that benefits off everything. Okay, so it's only a victory for them. All right, if they're able to, if they was able to establish, their oil infrastructure in Venezuela. Okay, so I want to go here too because this is another twist he brought out. I didn't think about this. All right, because another thing when we see these devils, when they move and they operate, AI is always is in the mix. Okay, so let's play this.
Becoming Palestine a national cause. I mean, this is an off-the-record comment I listened several years ago. Some other foreign diplomats telling to Venezuelan people from the foreign ministry saying, look, you should talk to the Israelis and that will ease things up for you. I mean, that really happened. And of course, that explains also a lot precisely of how this is breaking down the way it is, especially because we haven't exploited enough the role of the AI tycoons behind it beyond Musk, which is obvious, you know, in this capital reshaping in which you have this new oligarchy, this new robber barons, the cloud robber barons that are now ruling U.S. not right now. And for example, Operation Southern Spear, if you actually go through the document, it clearly shows how many unmanned vehicles, aerial or maritime, are being used to screen and to surveil the Caribbean, the same way, by the way, they have been doing in Gaza, because this is an extension of Gaza in that sense. I hope to God that it doesn't get to that point, but it's important to take this into account. This is fundamental here, you know, because that's a new way of war, which is like a privatized package, which includes all this AI stuff with also mercenaries and a state effort, a state that absorbed executive from Meta, from Oracle, and from Palantir, if I'm not mistaken, that were absorbed by the U.S. Army and they are now lieutenant colonels, which actually were AI executives. So this explains also the merge that is operating here right now, and also maybe how the president was actually surveilled, regardless of all this spin they've been saying, all this, you know, all this pattern recognition and the daily routine and so on. I mean, they just bribe the crap out of someone in order to do this. It's no rocket science from my point of view. But the technicals, the technological support, yes, it's definitely these guys. And also AI, it's energy demanding, it's intensive. So that also explains a lot of, it's an angle of the whole resources in the Venezuelan oil reserves and whatnot, because of course, this is one of the core reasons this is all happening.
So yeah, he mentioned the AI factor. You know, he mentioned, you know, AI, you know, being used with the military to collect data. Okay, so they're able to know the whereabouts and the locations, and they're able to perform, you know, these special military operation with precision. You know, because of all this AI data, you know, the predictive, you know, be able to predict people's patterns, all right, their whereabouts, how they move, you know, so they're able to study this, you know, for years, months and years, okay, and is able to just pinpoint your whereabouts and, you know, your moves. So this is also, you know, another way that these devils train their AI real time too, you know, is to incorporate AI into these military missions, man, because they want AI to police, okay, the world. Okay, they want to police the world through AI, man. So when they do these special operations, you know, they incorporate the AI so the AI can learn how to do special forces. Okay, so the AI can learn how to track and hunt. Okay, so you got to factor that into it too. Okay, and then you have also he said the resource.
Only one.
Oh, so like
Yeah, no, I mean,
so also he mentioned the resources. Okay, I want to go into that. He mentioned the resources because not only the oil, because oil is used for energy, which they need a lot of energy to run those data centers, and they're gonna need a lot of energy for oil. I mean for war. All right, so they secure, you know, those oil reserves, okay, for the sake of war, and they also need energy for these data centers. You know, these data centers take a lot of resources, man. Okay, so the devil, he's just taking resources to throw into his digital public infrastructure as well. All right, because you go here, all right, because you go into here, okay, lithium, because Venezuela is also rich in lithium and gold. So when you go into the aspect of the lithium, all right, It said lithium is a versatile element with both major industrial application and crucial medical uses as a psychiatric medication. The most significant use of lithium is in technology and manufacturing due to its unique physical and chemical properties. It said lithium is the primary component in rechargeable lithium ion batteries used for mobile phones, laptops, digital cameras. All right. Now, what's one of the main things they need, okay, in this DPI is these digital cameras, these surveillance cameras, okay? And lithium is a major component in these digital cameras. And it says, and electric vehicles, all right, as well as in some non-rechargeable batteries for devices like heart pacemakers, okay? Now, what is another non-rechargeable device, okay, that these devils want to mass produce? The micro C hips, okay? in the microchip, man. You see? So let's go here. Um, also in military aircraft, it's alloys. It is alloyed with metals like aluminum, magnesium to improve their strength and reduce weight. These light, strong alloys are used in aircraft, high-speed trains, and bicycle frames, man. Okay, well, the aircraft, for the military, all right, is the main component. Their main application for the times we in now. Okay, so let's go from there. So I just quick Google research. Okay, because I said they have, tons of gold. Okay, and the beloved Elder Apostle Ariomla went into it, the other day, going into the gold. All right, that Venezuela has. All right, but when you go here, it says gold is used, okay, in the microchip itself, all right, for reliable, all right, corrosion resistant electrical connection, but it is typically in trace amounts. All right. It said lithium is not a core material for microchip operation, and this speaking like the microchips that's in your credit card, your phones. Okay. It said, but lithium-based batteries are used as a power source for active RFID tags. Okay, so gold is used in the microchip itself, all right, for corrosion resistance and electrical connections. Okay, but lithium-based batteries are used as a power source of active RFID tags, man. Okay, so these devils are getting these resources for their new world order, okay, and war. You see? So these devils are gearing up. Okay? And that's why Venezuela was, all right, became, a target. Okay? And that's why you had China and Russia. That's what they wanted. China and Russia don't give a damn about no Venezuelans, man. Okay? Iran, they don't give a damn about no Venezuelans. Okay? They wanted them resources too. They were just doing it in a more covert way. All right, they was less tyrannical. Okay, and America just come through, kidnap a nigga, kick dough, bring a nigga back to New York, and nigga, that's our resources now. Announce it on the press conference, nigga. We'll be back to set that up. You see. So the Iran, Russia, and China, they was more civilized, all right. But that was they whole thing, was those resources too, because they know they finna go to war and they need it. You know, and then they all about this digital. They all of them are with this digital system. You know, so they all need those resources, man. Okay, and this is why, all right, they're gonna fight. Okay, ain't no honor amongst thieves, man. Okay, and the planet Earth is ran by thieves. Okay, and they're gonna fight over these things. You see, so let's go from there. Yep, like the elder brother put. It says, this from the brother Elder Hawaii, GMS North Carolina, 777. It says, Second Corinthians 2:11 says, at least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, man. We know how the devil gets down, man. Okay? We know the devil because we know the end game. You see, the fact that we know the end game, okay, we're able to understand the moves he's making. We know what he's really up to. Okay, and it ain't to stop no drug trafficking, man. And you Americans are so goddamn dumb. There's nothing dumber than an American, man. There's nothing on the planet Earth that's dumber than an American. Okay, because you can be told any goddamn thing. You see, the dumbest creature in existence is the American citizen, man. You know, no one is more delusional than the American citizen, man. Okay? Because they can just tell you anything, man. All right. So let's read this from the brother Times 1, Hopeful Elect 144, Micah 2:1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds when the morning is light. They practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Yeah, they have the power to do these things, man. You know, like I said, they have the military might. Okay, they have the finances. Okay, they have the technology. Okay, they have the influence. Okay, they have the infrastructure, you know, to carry out all their wickedness, man. Okay, so they go into these councils and then they're able to begin to implement, okay, what they've discussed in the council, man. Okay, because it's in the power of their hand. Okay, so they cover fields and take them by violence and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage, man. And what they've done in Venezuela, they're just the last of what this is just the latest of what they always do, what they're constantly doing throughout the earth. We don't hear about, 90% of what these devils do throughout the earth, man. You know, we only hear about a portion. You see? But Venezuela is just the latest, okay, of the wickedness of Esau Edom. All right. So let's go here. So I got this video here too. So this my guy Larry Johnson, you know, he ex-CIA, you know, he has a pretty good perspective on it as well. You know, so let's play this.
Hi everyone, I'm Marcia. Please take 2 seconds to like, share, and follow below, and also leave a comment so we can beat the algorithm. Please also visit trendsjournal.com, that's trendsjournal.com, and get our top trend issue for 2026. You don't want to miss it. Make 2026 the year that you stay ahead of the mainstream news media.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about.
Hello, I'm Edmund DeMarsh with the Trends Journal. It's a great honor today to be talking to Larry Johnson, a former CIA analyst from Sonar21.com. Larry Johnson, thanks for joining the Trends Journal.
Hey, Ed. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. We started with a bang.
Boy, got that right.
After last night in Venezuela. Larry, I'd love to get your opinion on what happened last night in Caracas. Obviously, we know that the U.S. took control of Maduro and his wife. He's headed to a court in New York, a federal court, to face narco-terrorism charges. Right now, Donald Trump says that the U.S. is essentially in control of Venezuela. What happened, and where do we stand right now, Larry, in your opinion?
Well, this whole narcotics angle is a pretext. That's not what really the issue really is, and the terrorism thing is laughable. This is all about getting control of Venezuela's oil, so that it can be used by oil companies that are loyal to, willing to do the bidding of the United States. We're mad at Maduro because he won't submit himself to us. But at least it sounded like there were some talks where he was willing to make a deal, but it wasn't the deal that Donald Trump wanted. And I think one of the things driving this attack on Venezuela now is that they need to the White House needs to secure an alternative source oil to offset the supply of the Persian, shut down because of an impending attack on Iran.
So what we have to understand, just from a strategic aspect, all right, because America has, all right, a lot of oil reserve, okay, but America can't use a lot of the oil that it has. It can't refine it. So America does a lot of oil swaps, okay, with those oil-rich countries in the Middle East, okay, and they get oil. America gets oil from Canada. America gets, oil from the Middle East, okay, but they know when they go full-fledged with Iran, all right, that oil that comes from the Middle East, that's going to get shut down. Iran is going to shut that down, okay, and they will choke, okay, the American military out if they don't have access to, that type of oil that comes from, Saudi and, Qatar, all right, the UAE, okay, and that's why those nations are so built up, and the West allows those nations to become rich because they need that type of oil to power, all right, their country, to power America, and mainly to power their military. Okay, so this Venezuelan oil gives them another reserve, okay, that they can tap from, okay, to fuel their military. You see, so they're prepping. What we're seeing is war preparation, man. We're seeing like the BRICS. That's a military economic alliance. Okay, because they know when they go to war with the West, all right, you see, they're not going to be able to trade in the dollar and buy and purchase with the dollar and, deal with American banking, all right, institutions when they go to war. Okay, so they setting up things outside of, okay, these American banking institutions and the dollar. Okay, so what we're seeing is everybody is putting themselves in a position for all-out war, man. You see? So every move that's being made is to bolster, okay, and posture themselves to be in the best position possible of when the war starts. Because when the war starts, hey, things change drastically. Okay? So that's another strategic reason, America needed, to get in control of those oil reserves as well, So let's play this.
And the United States and Israel are going to attack Iran. And I don't think it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's really a misplaced, foolish thing to do, because Iran is in a much stronger position now to retaliate and respond. But this is, this Donald Trump action towards Maduro trying to reassert U.S. control dominance over Latin American countries, Central South America. This has been a pattern for well over 150 years, where we've gone to great lengths to make sure that we control the process. It became especially pointed in the 20th century, where particularly fruit plantations and then oil, that the United States wanted to keep this whole area for itself. And I back in 1986, when I began working the Honduran account at the CIA as the lead analyst. Well, I was the only analyst on Honduras, but Honduras was one of the top 5 foreign policy priorities for the U.S. government in terms of supporting the war against the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. And so I've witnessed where the United States goes from caring deeply about these little countries that really mean nothing in terms of world affairs to ignoring them. And then all of a sudden they come back into focus. And so we've seen a very elaborate propaganda campaign prior to this arrest of Maduro. It is a violation of international law. The Trump administration is hinging its action on the fact that Maduro is not illegal. He's not a legitimate leader. Well, neither is Vladimir Zelensky, but Trump posed Vladimir Zelensky was not a problem at Mar-a-Lago. So, what's the deal? And the people say, well, how can you say Vladimir Zelensky is not legitimate? Well, his presidential term is up and he declared, hey, I'm still president. I'm not leaving. So, like I said, the United States picks and chooses its the issues that it's going to care deeply about. And we'll align ourselves with drug traffickers and terrorists whenever it suits us. Just like we aligned ourselves with the terrorists now running Syria, formerly al-Jilani, now al-Sharaa.
Yeah.
As we've aligned ourselves with the Iranian terrorist group, the MEK, who is now involved with creating a false narrative that there's complete chaos and protests tearing apart Iran, that they're on the verge of regime collapse. And so we've got that as well here in Venezuela.
I want to get to Iran. This is from The Economist summary of what happened. It was, the paper wrote, Latin America and what Trump now calls the Don Road Doctrine. It said the U.S. would run a country that boasts the world's largest oil reserves, putting boots on the ground only if necessary. Its companies would extract a tremendous amount of wealth in the name of enriching both Americans and Venezuelans. And then it went on to say, Trump said.
And they're going to run their life to the ground, man. That this is going to enrich Americans and Venezuelans, man. What has America done to enrich Americans, okay, over the last 50 years? Okay, and they've been stealing resources and oil. This ain't their first lick they done hit. Okay, this is a lick for the elites, man. Okay, this ain't the first lick America done hit. It's just the latest. Okay, and the American people have benefited none. Okay, you got one stimulus check. Okay, 7 years ago, whenever that was. Okay.
The U.S. had for too long forgotten to enforce the 19th century Monroe Doctrine, which sought to exclude foreign powers from Latin America henceforth. He declared American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again, won't happen. Is this a done deal with Venezuela? Does the U.S. now control Venezuela? And will this be, considering that the Venezuelan military seems like it put up no fight, is this going to be easy for the U.S. to control? Or will this be a challenge and turn into another Iraq or Afghanistan?
It's a fantasy. Look how well we control what comes across the border of Mexico. We don't. Look how well we control what comes out of Colombia. We failed. Venezuela would just be another failed project on that. What it does run the risk of is if the United States puts any kind of presence at all in the country, that they will be targeted by insurgent groups, opponents to the U.S. interference. And we'll see a new space. Will be justified as terrorism. So we'll see the need to send more troops into Venezuela to combat terrorism. And that's how, the camel nose gets under the tent. Before you know it, you got the camel inside the tent. That's how the United States gets itself embroiled in foreign wars that it has no business being involved with.
Were you Trump and the White House and the entire administration? They've been taking victory laps today, and they've been saying that look at what we did. This is what happens. FAFO, F around and find out. That's that old saying that Pete Hegseth said during his meeting with the generals.
What a child! What a child he is.
And well, they adopted that. They've adopted the FAFO. Everyone's been posting that today, and they've been saying this is what you get when you have a leader with strength. You know, look at how easy this was. Are you surprised that it was so successful last night in capturing Maduro?
The only thing we're lacking is a mission accomplished banner. Look, you know, that's why, you know, the people that are doing the celebrating, they're too damn young to create it for themselves. You know, they don't, well, the average American doesn't understand that in the neighboring country of Colombia, there is a group called Special Forces Groups going into Colombia with counterinsurgency camp. So this, what this is likely to do is set Venezuela on a path of more chaos, not less.
You mentioned before Russia and China. So far, they've come out and made statements against what the U.S. did and the overthrow. Do you see them continuing to sit on the sidelines here? I know China expressed some concern about the U.S. taking over an oil tanker that was supposed to be shipping oil to China. What do you see develop as China and Russia and their approach to what's going on in Venezuela?
They're not good. I don't see them getting involved militarily. I could see them getting involved from the standpoint of covert action, organizing insurgent groups that would attack U.S. entities, but maintaining a degree of cutout. I mean, look, the borders between Brazil.
So dealing with Russia and China, they say they're not going to, you know, Russia and China are not going to, all right, mobilize to Venezuela, okay, in defense of Venezuela. Okay, now if there's resistant groups that come out of Venezuela, you know, when America tries to put boots on the ground, okay, well, you could see Russia and China funnel weapons, you know, and finance, you know, a resistance from afar, you know, and Russia has been doing this since the USSR days. They've been financing, you know, these different resistant groups, or if you had, you know, communist governments in Central or South America, all right, America would, you know, fund them, okay, to resist, you know, American colonization. You see? So America and Russia, you know, they have a history, all right, of fighting each other through proxies, okay, all up and down Central and South America, you know? So Venezuela can be the next, all right, Nicaragua, okay, like situation where you have these pro-American groups and these pro-Russian, all right, proxies, you know, going at it in Venezuela. Okay, so that's a possibility, you know, as well. But we'll see, you know.
And Venezuela on the south, and Colombia and Venezuela on the west and northwest, they're impossible to control. And so it's going to create a real problem. I think if they can, if Russia and China can take action that will tie the United States in knots, they'll do so. I wouldn't blame them. I'd do so. Because what the United States has done is such a blatant act of aggression. And remember, from the Russian standpoint, they're looking at this, the events of this last week. On Monday, Sunday and Monday last week, the United States worked with the Ukrainians to try to kill President Putin, and they failed. The Russians realize that now. And that is why the Russian reaction to this attempted attack with 91 drones was so furious, so angry, because you step back and say, this is an attack. And they didn't kill anybody. But it's not so much what it was supposed to accomplish as much as the message it was sending from the United States. At the very moment the United States is supposedly leading a peace effort to bring an end to the war, they are planning, conspiring with the Ukrainian services, targeting data that the Ukrainians needed in order to launch the attack at the residence of President Putin. And then they turn around and see what the United States did here. They know that Maduro was actually trying to accommodate the United States, trying to reach a deal. Trump had no interest in a deal.
So you had, America, all right, collaborate with Ukraine to try to take out Putin, man. All this is around the same time. And you have the civil unrest, being pushed, all right, in Iran. Okay, you have the kidnapping of Maduro and his wife, and then you have the attempted, assassination of Putin. Okay, about a week ago, man. You see, the West is getting aggressive, man. They go on with their move, all right. And what the West loves to do is what you call the decapitation strike. To where they take out certain heads in hopes that it causes a power vacuum. Okay, which we'll get into that. A power vacuum. I got that pulled up. All right, but what you see with the West, they love to do these decapitation strikes. All right, that's why they took out the head of Hezbollah. All right, they took out certain heads of the Houthi rebels. Okay, of Iran, they've been taking out certain heads. All right, they even got one of our Russian generals. Okay, so they like to do this. That's one of their things in the West. Okay, is to do decapitation strikes and hope to cause, what do you call it, a division, amongst the ranks. Okay, and they hope to cause, collapse, okay, of the whole system. In their mind, if we can get the right heads, we can cause a power vacuum, okay, which causes, civil war, all right, or strife or schisms, okay, within the opposing ranks, okay. So prepare to, ain't no telling what we might see in these next couple of days, because we know, all right, the West is bold. They don't give a damn, all right, and they don't have to answer to nobody, okay. No courts on the earth is going to hold the America and the small hats, okay, accountable for whatever they do, okay. International law doesn't apply to them, okay.
This is all about domination.
And you could probably make the same case. Well, I want to get back to Russia. Now, when the U.S. and Europeans that came out in favor of the U.S. intervention in Venezuela, do we have a leg to stand on anymore when we criticize Russia for attacking Ukraine?
Oh, no. Yeah.
If we criticize China aggression, let's say towards Taiwan, have we lost any kind of moral standings in that criticism?
Yeah, exactly right. It further undermines U.S. credibility. Not that we had much to start with. We had already largely squandered that credibility, but if nothing else, this reinforces in the minds of the Chinese and Russian leaders that the United States is not to be trusted. There already was, Putin's already been facing pressure by some who have argued that the West is no longer to be a trusted partner, that there's no future with the West. Sergei Karaganov is one of the leading proponents of this approach, that we need to, when he says we, the Russians, need to focus on the East, our futures with China, our futures in Siberia, our future is in the eastern part of Russia, not going to Western Europe. Western Europe's a dead end. This attack by the United States on Venezuela will certainly reinforce what Karaganov is. It gives him more credibility.
You mentioned before.
Yeah, so the Lord just forcing the hand, okay, of everybody to do what they need to do, to fulfill prophecy, man, which is this third world war. Now, I want to go here because, like I say, going into these power vacuums, okay, that the West, tries to create, by these decapitation, okay, strikes that they, that they do, all right, to these other nations. It says a power vacuum is a situation where there's a lack of central authority or leadership, often after a leader or government collapses, leaving a void that other forces like rival groups or militias rush to fill, causing instability, conflict, or a struggle for control. It's an analogy to a physical vacuum where something must move in, all right, to fill the empty space, all right, occurring after revolution, wars, or leadership changes. Okay, so they want to create this power vacuum because the power vacuum creates instability, civil war, all right, civil unrest. Okay, and that's what they want to happen in Venezuela. They want civil unrest. Okay, but as a old boy, all right, Diego said, everybody's pretty much calm about the situation. They in shock, how it went down. Okay, because what you going to it says uh it's going to the breakdown of it. It said absence of control, no single entity exercises effective governance or authority. Competition, it said various factions, individuals, or external powers vie to establish dominance. All right. Instability often leads to civil unrest, regional conflicts, and societal breakdown. Okay. And this is the purpose of a decapitation strike. Okay. Into where the government just implodes on itself and it's just complete chaos. Okay. And then, the West is just able to sit back. Okay. While, their enemy destroy themselves. Okay. And once they get to a point, all right, of self-destruction, once they get to a certain point in the midst of the self-destruction, America just able to come in, swoop in, install a puppet leader, set up bases, set up garrisons, and now it's an American colony. Okay, so this is what these devils, this is what they want to happen in Venezuela. This is what they want to happen in Iran. They want to happen in Russia. Okay, because their thing is that they can take down China and Russia. Russia and Iran. China gonna get in line. Okay, which they're in agreement, like I say, when it comes to this new world order. Okay, but their position in this new world order, that's where you get the conflict. Because these other nations, they want a multilateral, all right, a multipolar, okay, new world order where there's multiple, okay, superpowers. Okay, but America like, nah, nigga, this it's a new system, but nigga, it's still us. So it's just a lot of chaos in the midst of this, man. All right, and I'll also look this up too. It's gonna be a lot of chaos in these devils trying to establish this new world order because they agree, they they on one accord. Then there's things that they don't agree on. Okay, so when you go into I just asked real quick Google search, can U.S. refine Venezuelan oil? It says yes. It says U.S. refineries, especially those of the Gulf Coast, are well suited to process Venezuela's heavy sour crude oil, which was a major feedstock before U.S. sanctions cut off supply. These specialized facilities can handle the dense oil better than U.S. All right, better than lighter U.S. shale oil. So they're able to refine Venezuela oil better than their own oil. Okay, so this was a come up, all right, for these American oil companies, all right, and the American military machine. Okay, which is what going to embolden them, all right, to go with their move. All right, making Venezuelan crude potentially profitable for them, despite requiring complex refining. You see, and what this does also is takes away, all right, oil reserves from Russia and China. Okay, and India as well, because India used to get that crude oil from Venezuela. Okay, so now it's putting the squeeze on Russia and China. They can't, they got to go with their move soon too. Everybody's being set up to go with their move, man. And this is our prayers, you know, being answered. You know, you brothers, you know, you few sisters that sincerely believe this is our prayers being answered, man. The Lord forcing the tempo. Okay, he forcing everybody to go with their move, man. Ain't no sitting back and chilling. And no, man, you gotta go with your move. You know, so he'll slap America in the face, you know, by something that China and Russia do, and then he'll, you know, slap China and Russia in the face by something that America and them small has to do. Okay, and it's all to provoke, okay, the will of the Lord to be played out in the earth, man. You know, so let's go. Matter of fact, let's get this. This is the book of Proverbs. You know, as I pray that this is making sense. You know, I know it's quite a bit of information. You know, like I said, if you got any questions, feel free to ask. You know, on the comment board. Our Ratazar, you know, we tap in. But yeah, let's go. We'll end it here, man. You know, simple precept. Proverbs 19, and you know, it's simple but it's heavy. All right. Proverbs 19 and 21 said there are many devices in a man's heart, okay, which is a man's mind. Okay, so all these nations have all these schemes and plots and treachery that they're doing amongst one another. You know, because everybody, you know, want power. You know, it said, nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord that shall stand. So it's gonna be the Lord's counsel that stand. Okay, and the Lord's counsel is to set Yahweh Shiloh. Okay, as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords forever. Okay, along with his brethren. All right, those first fruit, 12,000 men, you know, from each tribe. Okay, that's going to be the new power system in the earth, the power structure. Okay, in the earth, man. You know, so that's the point, man. Just wanted, you know, to get into that. You know, Lord will, it was edifying. You know, once again, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors. All right, to the elders. All right, the apostles of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutation to the whole Philek Shalom.